Okay, so welcome back. I know it's been a while since we met. I was hoping to be available at the college today, but due to unforeseeable circumstances, I could not be able to make it. But nonetheless, should not detract us from carrying on with our project. Actually, there had been a mistake. I had imagined that we were supposed to be having our class on Tuesdays, only for Kevin to tell me that our classes are actually on Wednesday, so apologies for that. I'll try to make it up to us the best I can. So I think we're going to carry on with the implementation of our project and see how we can be able to move along. So I think last time when we were looking at the SQL basics, we looked at the syntax of SQL, we looked at variables, we looked at stored procedures. Then we also saw how we can be able to create tables, give appropriate data types and all that kind of stuff. So I think we did a lot on the database side. So I want us to move on from there and actually implement all these things that we learned in as far as our movies database is concerned. So I'll jump straight into it. So I'll begin by, of course, creating a few tables. Then I will do the CRUD operations for the tables. Then I'll show us how to test them up. Then we'll go into our mid layer, which I'm going to use PHP. I'm going to show us how to create an API, which you can be able to consume. Then from there, we'll be able to use those APIs on our front end and see how that works out. So I'll just open SQL Yog. And I'll go into our movies database. I think we have it here. So far, I only have two tables. I have users and I have movie titles. I don't know if I have procedures. Yes, I have a few, but well, I'll create new ones. So on the movies database, at least we have some couple of tables that you guys had done. So we have the movie titles. We had put movie titles over here. We also have movie categories. So let me say movie categories. There is category ID, category name, then description. You can describe it a bit. Date added by, whether it's deleted, it's going to be boolean. By default, it's going to be 0. Date deleted, which,
Hello, you can share your screen.
oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen yet. Sorry about that. Yeah, sometimes it's good if you guys let me know. All right, can you be able to see it?
Yes. You
Or
can at least increase the fonts a bit.
increasing the font size might be a bit tricky on this UI, but definitely when I'm writing the queries and the code, probably I might be able to increase it. But on this design UI, it becomes a bit tricky. Let me just see view. I don't even have view here. Well, for this particular design, it might be tricky, but don't worry. Once I share the video, I think it will be clear enough because I'm recording it in high definition. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So just the design, I think the design is the only thing that's going to have an issue. The rest of the elements should just be fine. So we were designing. I was just trying to recreate whatever we had designed the other time, so that we can be able to use them for implementation of our application. So this is the movies categories. I'll give them data types. This one is integer. Its primary key is auto increment. Category name is variable character. I don't expect it to be more than 50 characters in terms of describing the category. For the description, I can give it a variable character, maybe 1,000 characters should be enough. Date added would be date and time or timestamp, whatever you're comfortable with. Added by is going to be an integer because you're going to use a user, and date deleted is going to be date and time. Date time deleted by is going to be integer. We're going to use the user ID for that activity. So I'll save that. I'll create another table. I think we also had movie stars. Movie stars, like that. So I have the star ID, which is integer, primary key auto increment, star name, mm, let's say first name, that is variable character 50, middle name, variable character 50, and last name. I think somebody should be able to accept for me those who are coming in. Is it possible, Brian, for you to, Kevin, for you to do that? I don't know if you'll be able to, but I think you should be able to accept those who are coming while I'm demonstrating. Is that okay? So I have gender here, 50. I have date of birth. Maybe mugshot. Mugshot is the face, eh? Variable character 50. What else do we need about a star? We have nationality. That one can be integer because we can have a list of countries. Then we have date added by, deleted, default is 0, date deleted, and deleted by. So these are movie stars. Then I think we also had something to do with the production houses, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, we had the production houses. Production houses. So we have house ID, which is integer, primary key auto increment, house name, variable character 50. We can use instead of houses, let's just say companies. It's company ID, company name, date added by. Are you able to accept? Are you able to accept the person who's coming in, or should I do it myself?
I am not able. Maybe if made a co-host.
Oh, okay. I make you a co-host. How do I do that? Let me see. Brian, I can't make you a co-host. Okay. Probably we will make do with that for now. Added by added by deleted. It's Boolean. Default is 0. Deleted. Is date and time. Sorry. And deleted by is Boolean. No, deleted by is not Boolean, it's integer. Yeah. Then I think I also have what else? Well, I think we can make do with that for now, right? So these are the primary data sets that we would use. So once we create our database, once we create our database, of course, we saw how to create relationships. I'm not going to get into that, but of course, as we are starting to build this up, we'll make sure that that is actually implemented as far as the NIN is concerned, the the system application is concerned. So once we create our database, this is what we had done the other time. The first thing we need to do is to create what we call CRUD operations. So we need to, here I can make the font bigger. We need CRUD operations for all entities. Entities are these things that we talked about. We want to store data about these entities, so we need to create CRUD operation. CRUD basically means create, read, update, and delete. So we need to write that functionality and test that they are working before we move to the next level. So let's create CRUD operations for the elements that we have here. Now, I will begin with users. I don't know how many columns I have here. I think I need to modify this. So we have last name, we have middle name, we have password, maybe make it 100. We have assault here for the password, make it maybe 50. System admin is boolean, by default is false. Date added, date and time, added by is integer. Account active is boolean, and by default it's 1. Reason deactivated is variable character. I guess let's make it 1000. So let me just accept whoever is coming in. All right, so this is user. I think is there anything else I've left? Is integer? I think there's a fine, so user is fine. So I'll save that. So these are the primary tables that I want to use for now. So usually I like creating stored procedure for all the entities that we have. Let me begin with movie categories. Let's create the CRUD operations for movie categories. There'll be five categories in general. There'll be create, the create and update, I'll use one script. Read and delete are going to be different, but then I'll also have another one, get a single categories detail. So in short, they're going to be 5 in total, but create and update is going to be 1. Let me explain how that works out. So what you're going to do, we had learned how to create stored procedures. So let me just drop all this. We don't need them. They were for testing purposes last time. So let me just remove them from here so they don't confuse us. So let's begin with movie categories. We want to create CRUD operations for movie categories. So first things first, we will check if a movie category exists, right? So I'll right click and say create stored procedure. Then I'll say SP. Now I usually like abbreviating database object acceptables with some prefix so that I know this is a stored procedure, this is a function, this is a trigger, this is an event, and so forth and so forth. So every time I see an SP, I know it is a stored procedure. Every time I see an FN, I know it is a function. Every see an ID, it's an index, and so forth and so forth. So this is the style we're going to be using for this particular implementation. So I'll say SP check movie category. So before we save any movie category, we need to check that it exists. Okay, so I'll say create. Now, why I'm using this wizard is because I don't want to type all these shenanigans, all these things. I could as well as just type all this because we had learned how to do it. But again, I don't want to type all this. So by right clicking and saying create and giving it a name, it automatically fills in the template for me. So I only focus on the parts that need my attention. Now, for me to check the movie, I'll need the category ID, and you're going to see why. Category ID, which is integer, and I also need category name, which is variable character. Probably we assume that the movie category cannot be more than 50 characters. So what you're trying to do is every time somebody says save, we want to check that the category does not exist before we save. And how do we check that the category does not exist? If that name exists and the ID is not the same as the one that is in the database, then it means that they're different. So let me just accept this. Um, right. So I think you should be coming to class early so that you avoid distraction, or rather, I'll try and figure out how to give one of you the privilege for allowing others to come in. So, yeah, so that we don't have a lot of interruptions. But let's carry on. As I was saying, before I save any movie category, I need to check whether it exists or not. If it exists, I tell the user that it exists. Otherwise, if it does not exist, then I can allow the user to type it in. But it could be existing and has the same ID, which means I'm just trying to modify it. So that's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say select all fields from this movies category. I just double click on it. Then I simply say where the category ID is not equal to category ID I have provided, but the category name is the same as the category name I've provided. So that should allow me to be able to check whether it exists or not. If it exists, it will return some rows. If it does not exist, it will return blank. So every time it returns blank, I know that it does not exist. Okay, that person has been accepted. Right, so this should allow me to check whether a movie category exists or not. So if the category exists, it will return at least a row. If the category does not exist, it will return blank. Of course, I need to add here, and deleted is 0. Because if I deleted it before and I'm trying to add it again, it should allow me to be able to add it all over again. So that check movie category, I'll save it, and I will see here success, and I'm seeing it down here. So it means that it has been stored in my MySQL server. Then after I check, the next thing I do is to save the category itself. So I'll right click here, I'll say create procedure again. Then I'll say SP save movie category. Okay. Um, can I? Where are these people? I'm trying to add this. Where are they? Hmm. Why is it? Where? Oh, admit all. Okay, sorry about that. So we are talking about after we check, we now save the category. So this is what you're going to do: save movie category. Now, for me to save the movie category, I need certain fields. So if I look at my database of my table over here, I need the category ID, I need the category name, the description, date added, and we've added it. So I'll put here category ID, which is integer, category name, which is variable character, 50. I'll also have the category description, which is variable character, we said about 1,000. And we have the user who added it, which is going to be an integer, right? So these are the fields. I need category ID, category name, category description, and the user who created it. Now, here I said I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do both create and update with a single statement. So how does that work out? If the category ID passed is 0, it means that I am creating a new record. If the category ID passed is not 0, which means it's another value other than 0, then it means I'm trying to update a category whose ID I have provided. So that's the trick that you're going to use in this scenario. So here I'll simply say, um, if category ID is equals to 0, then do this. Otherwise, do this. Yeah, this is what it looked like last time. So if category ID is 0, I will say insert into this table called movies categories. Then I'll put the field names. Then I'll specify the values to be inserted are as follows. So Here I'm going to insert the category name. Remember, the category ID is auto increment. So when I'm inserting, I don't need to provide the category ID. It's going to be automatic. So category name, I'll need the description, I'll need the date added, and I'll need whoever added it. Delete by default is 0, so I don't bother with it. And these other fields are only applicable when the data is being deleted. So those are the ones that I need when I'm doing the insert. So here I'll say I'm inserting the variable is category name, as I've defined it up here, category name. The other variable is category description. As you can see, I've described it here, category description. Now, when it comes to date added, I can use my SQL function called now. It will get the current date and time. And the added by will be the user ID that I have provided, user ID up here. So here, right? So that will allow me to insert the record or to insert the movie category. Now, these guys are distracting me as we're carrying on. I'll probably try to figure out how we can get around that. So now that portion will create a new record. If the category ID provided is 0, it means that we are adding a new record. If the category ID that we'll provide is not 0, it means we are trying to update a category that exists in the database whose category ID you have provided over here. So what I'm going to say here is, otherwise, if the category ID is not 0, I'll say update this movies category. Then I will say set category name is equals to the variable category name. Then the description equals category description. I think those are the only two things that I can be able to update. Then I can say where now the category ID is equals to the category ID I have provided at the top here. So it means that if category ID is not 0, I'm trying to update the category whose category ID has been provided, and that's why I'm using this where clause down here. Okay, so this will do two things. It will create a category if it does not exist, or update one that exists. We're going to see how that works out in a short while. So I'll save that, run it. There's no error, it's okay, and it's also showing on this other side that you have save category. Awesome. So let me admit all these guys. I hope everybody is now in. Okay, so that is we have checked the category, we have saved the category. The next thing we need to do is to get the categories that do exist, right? So for us to get categories that exist, we're going to right click again and say create procedure, and I'll say sp get movie categories. Get movie categories, right? So on getting these movie categories, do I need to filter them by anything? um For now, let me assume I don't want to filter them with any field or by any field, but probably maybe in future we might want to filter those categories by name or things like that. So for now, I'm not going to have any variable for filling it in. Let me just accept this, guys. And I think you guys should try and come early. Now you can see how much of a distraction this becomes. Right, so for me to get the categories, I'll simply say select category.all fields. Now I also need okay. I hope there's no more people coming in, or unless you guys figure out a way for me in which you can be able uh, to admit the others without necessarily interfering with the class. Huh? Okay, let's carry on. So as I was saying, for me to get the categories, I'll get all fields from the categories table, movies categories table. But then I'll also need the name of the person who added the movie. Remember here, we only have the ID of the person who added, but we might need to know the exact name of the person who added the movie. So to get the exact name, I'll use the concatenation function. We talked about functions. Inbuilt function, there's one called concatenate, which allows you to join strings together. So I use concatenate function, and I'll say concatenate first name, put a space, put middle name, put a space, then you put last name, then you simply say this as added by. We talked about aliases, so this field will be labeled as added by. Then of course we come and say from where are we selecting the data for movie categories. We'll give it an alias of C. Then we simply say join. Then we join this table called users as S on S dot user ID is equals to C dot added by, right? So these added by here relates to this user ID here. So that's the relationship that you're forming. You're just telling it how those two tables are connected together, which field is connecting all of them. So this is what I prefer to write. In some quarters, some people would write it something like this. And I think we discussed that last time. So instead of movies categories as C, then they put a comma, then they put the other table here, like that. Then instead of this join, you simply say where. So even this would work out. So either this method or this method will work out. So I'll just leave this down here. For those guys who like shorthand methods, this is actually how you do an equijoin or a full join, but I would prefer to do this instead. This one looks more elegant to me. There's no penalty in terms of execution time or space. They more or less execute using the same parameters, but this one looks much more elegant to me based on how it is constructed. So that's just my preference. Now, once I join the two tables, of course, I only want to show the movie categories that are not deleted. So I'll come and here and add aware clause, and I'll say where deleted is equals to 0. But at the same time, I might want to organize them alphabetically so that the user reads them from letter A to letter Z. So I can come here and say order by category name. So then, of course, I will have to end up with a semicolon. So all the time you're writing a query, you make sure that you end with a semicolon. So that should be able to allow me to get movie categories, movie category details, and at the same time show me the name of the person who added them at the end of that within at the end of each column. Whoever added would be displayed over there. So again, I'll execute this one. It should save successfully. You can see it's in my database. So now we need to move ahead into now getting a single movie category. Maybe you want to edit it, maybe whatever it is we want to do. So this one will get us a list of all of them, but you also need to get a specific one. So if you need to get a specific one, we'll need to provide its ID. So we'll filter out the movie category based on that ID. These are the kind of operations that we do in all the tables as we move along. So again, I'll come to stored procedures here. I'll say create and I'll say sp get movie category details like that. So I'll remove that and that. Now for me to get movie category details, I'll need the category ID because that's what I'm using to is what I'm going to use to filter out. Then this is an integer. Always you have to provide data type. Then I'll say select all fields from these movies that are movies categories where the category ID is equal to the category ID I have provided. That's all I need for this scenario. That will be able to get me a specific movie ID. Save that and have it. Then the last operation I need to have is probably delete the movie category. So I need to delete the movie category again. I come here, right click, say question procedure, SP, delete movie category. All right, so movie, not move. I hope the rest are moving. Yeah, they are. So delete movie category. Now, when I'm deleting a movie category, what do I need? I need two things. I need the ID of the category to be deleted and the user who is deleting the category, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say, give me the category ID as integer and give me the user ID who is logged in also is an integer. So now remember, this is a database, and in databases, we actually don't delete data. We don't do hard delete, we do what we call soft delete. And soft delete basically means I'll come to this field here called deleted, then I'll mark it 1. By default, it was 0. When I mark it 1, it means it is deleted, but physically it is still present inside the database. So a database is more like what we call a ledger. Data comes in but does not get deleted. So we only change the status for purposes of display and all that, but we never remove data from our database for whatever reason. this is for audit purposes. I might have created a movie category somewhere down the line. I decide to remove it from a list of categories I have, but I have movies that are still connected to that particular category. So it means that if I was to delete that particular record, then I might end up with what we call orphaned records. So we don't do hard deletes, we do what we call soft deletes. So under soft delete is basically toggling the status of this deleted column from 0 to 1, and thereby again, as we are filtering delete over here, you can see where I'm saying where deleted is 0. So if deleted is 1, then that category does not get returned. So that is how we are going to do all our deletes. So here, instead of using the word delete as you would expected, I will use update instead. Okay, so it will be update. I'll update this table called movie categories. Then I will set deleted is equals to 1, date deleted is equals to current date and time, and deleted by is equals to the user who is logged in. Then of course I need to specify which one I want to delete. The category ID is same as the one that I have provided over here. Okay, so that should allow me to be able to delete the categories. So I'll execute that. If everything is fine, it should be able to save. You want to see success down here without any errors, and of course you also want to check that actually it has been implemented inside the database here like that. That is how you confirm that you've actually written your stored procedures correctly and they have been stored within your database. So next time you want to call them, they are already existing. And you're going to see why this is important. As I had said before, number one, it separates our database from the programming environment you're going to use. So we have a lot of control over what you can be able to do as far as database is concerned, manage security, manage concurrency, do things like transaction management. We can scale up the application very, very easily. We would simply change the application without recompiling it, and it gives us all those advantages that we have discussed. So that's why we want to have them as stored procedures. Now, we have written the stored procedures. Let's see um, how they work out. Let's see how we can test them. Then we can be able to go and create furthermore. So I think somebody else is trying to come in. All right, so we have written the stored procedures. Let's see how we can test them. So to test them, I'll simply create a new, click on this plus over here and say new query editor. Then every time we want to execute or invoke a stored procedure, we'll use the keyword call. So if I want to check if this is working, so I'll simply say call. Maybe this one I know will not return anything for now. So it has two variables. The category ID, let me say category one, and maybe the name is maybe say action. Now, remember we said if it returns any values, it means it exists. If it does not return any values, it means it does not exist, isn't it? So I'll execute that, and it returns only the columns with blank, so it means it does not exist. Perfect. Let's now try to save a new one. So save movie category. I'll highlight all this. I'll copy and I'll paste it down here. So I'll say call. I paste it here. So category ID, remember we said if you put category ID as 0, it means you are inserting, right? Then I'll say I want to insert action. A description, I'll simply say motion pictures with a lot of action. Then the user who is adding them, assume the user ID is 1, like that. So this one, because I've put the ID as 0, it should be able to insert this category into our database. So I'll highlight this and say execute. Now, if I see success, I want to see success most of the time. If I see success and I see one row affected or however many rows affected, it means it has executed correctly. So I can come back and check if it exists. And clicking on that, now you can see I don't have action yet. Why is that? So I can come back. Now, this is how you test your stored procedure. So this one showed us that it was successful, but this one tells us that that well, That is true because action is one, so it will not return anything. But if I put zero, then it should be able to return, as you can see. So it's me who made a mistake on that query. So if I check action, because action is one, it will never return because I'm talking about the same thing. So I'm most likely I'm trying to edit it. But if I have a different ID but the name exists, then it tells me, sorry, that ID you're trying to create already exists in the database because I can be able to get the record. So that actually is working. So now I don't have users yet. So what I will do is let me create one admin user in my database so that the other actually it does have some data, which is perfect. I wasn't thinking that there was some data here. That's perfect. That should be able to work. So if I come to get movie categories here, I'll simply copy the stored procedure, come back down here, and I'll say call movie categories, and I click that, and you can see it tells me um, movie categories exist. So added by is null. I don't know why added by is null. Let me just check. Probably what kind of data do I have here? User ID is integer. Added by is integer. That's fine. So why is it giving me blank? Let me just check. Get movie categories. Uh, Added by name. Okay, let's say that's okay. So who is coming in? So that looks okay. Why is it having an issue? Added by name is null, so it has been added by one. And well, I think I know why. It's because the last name is null. So these ones are null. First name is system administrator. Let me make this one blank. That's probably why it's bringing a null value. So because when you concatenate null, it gives you null. Perfect. So you can see now the name is actually there. So yeah, those are mistakes that you would naturally make. But of course, that is because that data is that was already existing in the database. Otherwise, as we create our tables and we add the stored procedures, those kind of errors are never going to be there because we'll always make sure that those fields have values. If they don't have values and you have errors like that, maybe you might want to go ahead and check them in that regard. So I have tested that I can be able to get movie categories. Well, I can add another one. I can have drama, so motion pictures based on real life events and captivating. I'll add that's drama. I can also add comedy, motion pictures that are funny, and you can add as many as possible. So when I click this, it should be able to give me at least three of them. So you can see now I have action, comedy, and drama, and the person who actually added them is there. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is every time we write our stored procedures, we need to test them to see that they are working and correct mistakes where applicable. Because sometimes we might write them with mistakes that they've seen. I had mistakes in mine. I was able to correct them, and of course, moving forward, I can now go ahead and know that for sure my database is actually working. It's decoupled, it's ACID, and everything is working by design. So even if I was to do integration with other systems anywhere else elsewhere, I'll probably be very sure that the database side is actually working. If there's any error, then it's coming from the other application that I'm developing. That's the advantage of writing them and testing them within your database itself. So let's get a specific movie category details, which is get movie category details. As you can see, it expects us to give the ID. So I'll copy it. I'll say call. Then I'll give the category here. Let's say I want to test 3. So if I put here 3, it should give me that is comedy. So that gives me comedy. Actually, I wrote it wrongly. And this is a good thing because I wrote it wrongly. How do we correct it? So again, if we want to correct, this is ID3. I'll call this save movie category. By default, when we are creating, we give it an ID of 0. So if I give it an ID of 3, and I'll say this is comedy, and I'll say motion pictures that are funny, updated. So because the ID is 3, it means that it's going to look for an ID that is 3 and update all the other fields that we have set up. So I'll click that, save that, it's successful. Execute this again, run it. Now you can see it is correct, and actually even the description has been updated. That's the power of now using stored procedure and that kind of stuff. So you can see I'm able to combine some functionalities that are similar, and I'm able to do them very, very fluently just by calling the name of the stored procedure and providing the appropriate variables, and it is able to do the rest. Now, let's look at how we can be able to delete. So let's see how we can be able to delete. So for us to delete, again, we have this delete movie category over here. So I have this. I'll copy it, come to my query editor, and I'll paste it here. Sorry, call that. It needs me to give the ID of the movie I want to delete. Let's say I want to delete ID number 3, which is the comedy, and the user who is deleting it is user 1. So when I highlight that and I run it, you can see it's successful. Now, if I try to get the movie category details here, it's going to return yes, because I didn't say when we are returning the movie details, we don't check whether it's deleted or not. But if I want to get a list of movie categories that exist, then I don't expect to get the comedy. So as you can see, the comedy is not showing because it is deleted. So if I check the details here, you'll see that the deleted column is 1, and the person deleted is 1, and this is the time that they deleted it. So whenever the column is deleted, then it will be omitted from this list over here, because this third procedure simply says that get me where deleted is 0. And that's very, very important. So that is how we write CRUD or CRUD operations as far as our database entities are concerned. We'll have check, we'll have save or update, we'll have get list, we have get specific one, then we have delete. So usually for all the entities that we have within our database, those are the 5 main operations that we'll be having over and over again. Now, any question up to that point, because I've explained how we do the movies categories, then we need to do the movie stars, the titles, production companies, and users. Any question up to that point, then I can be able to explain clearly. You might start by raising your hand so that we go one by one. Any question, or should I proceed? I hope you guys can hear me. I'm not talking alone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You see, when you keep quiet, I am assuming that probably maybe my connection is terminated or stuff like that. So, any question? If there's none, we carry on. Okay, I'll assume there's none. So that is perfectly clear. So let's go ahead and create movie stars. So I'll just close these ones. Don't get too many. So you need to be, once you test them, you just close them up before you go to the next thing. Okay, that's my style. But again, if you want to have them as many as possible, be my guest. So somebody's trying to come in. So we have created movie categories. Now let's go and do movie stars. We'll repeat the exact cycle, but now for the movie star, what do we use to check? Because we need to check if the star exists. Do we check the entire name, or we just ignore the checking part? We simply create a new record. We probably might want to check that all the three names are not in use, right? So maybe something like that, or we can combine. Well, I don't know how we're going to check the names because we don't have like their ID or their. Well, let's assume that they have uh, Hollywood reference number. So probably a lot of this table, and I'll create a reference number. Let's assume all of them have a reference number that they use when they're in Hollywood or any other part of the world in that matter. So this is a star ID, not the start ID. Okay, and guys are still coming in. Eh? I have never seen this many people in class. Okay, movie stars. So let's do the movie stars. Again, same thing. Start by checking if the movie star exists. Check movie star. And for the movie star, we'll have the ID. So we'll have the star ID, which is integer. Then we'll have the reference number, which is variable character 50. So I'm assuming this reference number is universal. That's what they're using in any set that they go to. So here I'll come and say select all fields from movie stars, where the star ID is not the same as the one that I provided, but the reference number is what I provided. So it means that somebody else has that reference number. So with that, it means that that star already exists. So I will save that. So you can see check movie star is there. Then I will go ahead and save the movie star. SP save movie star. Now I'm writing start. So for the movie star, we have quite a number of elements. So what I'm going to do is, because I know I need a country, I'll create a table here called countries. Then I'll have country name and country ID. So country ID, that's integer. A primary key auto increment, then country name. This is going to be variable character 50. I'm just preempting because I know I'll need countries. So let me add one, which is United States. Most of them come from there. So all the countries probably you'd add them inside here. So I'm just doing that because I know when I'm adding a movie star, I'll need their country. That's why I've gone ahead to create that. I know in your scenario you might have created that in advance, so not a big deal. So when I'm saving a movie star, usually again as I said, just open the table itself and check the fields that you need. So I'll need the star ID, which is integer. I'll need the first name, which is variable character 50. I'll need the middle name, variable character 50. I'll need the last name, variable character 50. You can go to a new line. You're not restricted to typing it on one whole line. Then I have gender is variable character 50. Of course, the next male, female, or other, it might not be that long. Then I have date of birth, which is date. Then I also have mugshot, which is the photo. This can be variable character. Maybe let me say the part is 1,000 characters long, because what you're storing is the path to where the file is, and we are not uploading the file into the database. All right. So we're just saving the path to where we have stored it. Then we have nationality. This is going to be an integer because it's the country ID. Then we have date added. We have added by user ID. I think the rest are, yeah, user ID is integer also. So these are the fields that we need, right? Let me just admit this one. I hope there are no more. I hope that is the last of it. So those are all the fields we need to be able to save a movie star. So how do we save a movie star? We said again, if star ID is 0, then we insert. Otherwise, we update. Then we end if, isn't it? So if the star ID is 0, we simply insert the star. So we simply say here insert into the table called movie stars, like that. The values are here. So I just list the field names that I want to insert. I want to insert reference number, first name, middle name, last name, gender, date of birth, mugshot, nationality, date added, added by. Now, I don't think I need any other. And if they are too long, just break the line into two so that you're able to see all of them. Now, the values reference number is the variable reference number. First name is the variable first name. Middle name is the variable middle name. Last name is the variable last name. Gender is the variable gender. Date of birth is the variable date of birth. Mugshot is the variable. Did I put it? Mugshot is. And nationality is the variable nationality. And date added is current date and time, which is now. Added by is the variable user ID. So that should allow me to uh, create a new star, movie star. Otherwise, if the star ID is not 0, then I'll simply say update. Then I'll take the table name. Then I specify the fields I want to update. I want to update reference number is equals to the variable reference number. I want to update first name is equals to the variable first name. I want to update middle name is a variable middle name. I want to update the variable last name equals to the variable last name. Go to new line, gender, I want to update it to gender. I can change any of this. Date of birth, I can change date of birth. Now for the mugshot, let me assume that I might not change it directly because it's going to be an operation that involves change photo. It's one operation, so we probably might handle it elsewhere. So I'll skip that. But nationality, I'll specify it there, nationality. Then of course I'll simply need to specify the criteria for updating where the star ID is equal to the star ID provided, right? So that should allow me to be able to create a new star or update details of an existing star. So I'm doing two things in one stored procedure. So I think it looks fine. Everything here looks okay, if you ask me. So I just click on execute here. It tells me there's an error. Variable star ID has not been defined. This is start. So you can see I also make mistakes. It's supposed to be star ID up here. I had called it start ID. It's supposed to be star ID. So again, try it, execute. It tells me there's an error near reference number. So I need to say set. Every time you use update, you will have to say set. I also forgot that. Execute it again. Awesome. That works. So you can see, nobody's perfect. You make mistakes, but you just need to understand exactly where they are and correct them as you move along. So we have saved the movie star. Let's get the movie stars. Okay. So again, here I'm going to come and say sp get movie stars, like that. So to get movie stars, I want to get a list of all the movie stars, for example. Maybe in future I might want to filter them up by country, I might want to filter them by gender, I want to filter them by, you know, nationality, whatever it is that I need to filter. But for now, let me assume I'm not going to filter them by any field. So I want to get a list of all the movie stars so long as they have not been deleted from the system. So what do I do? I'll simply say select all fields, not all but movies or stars dot all fields. I'll need the country name because I only stored the country ID on the other side. Then I'll also need to know who added them. So I'll say concat. Well, I think I like clicking, so I'll say concat first name and space and middle name and space and last name and call it added by name. So I'll say from which table? The table called movie stars. I give it an alias of S. Then I simply tell it to join the table called users with an alias of u on u dot user ID is equals to s dot added by, right? Then I also need to join another table called countries so that I know the country name. So join countries as C on C dot country ID is equals to the movie star dot nationality. That's the comparison that we had made, isn't it? Then of course I'll add our clause where s dot deleted. Deleted is common in all the fields, so you need to tell it from which table is equals to 0. Then maybe I want to arrange this name movie stars alphabetical. Then order by. I'll order by first of all by first name, then middle name if the first names are the same, then last name. That's important because you can have two movie stars who have similar names. Somebody like Robert Downey. We have Robert Downey, the first, the second, the third, and so forth and so forth. So you might want to arrange them alphabetically from first name, middle name, all the way to the last name if they have similar names that could be together. We can have multiple threads and multiple and so forth, then just organize with the other name after the first name and that kind of a thing. So this should allow us to be able to get all the movie stars. So I will also go ahead and execute it. I have an error. It stays where order by. It tells me country ID equals nationality. Okay. I missed on. I didn't put a space there. So I hope you saw that. So I said the alias is C, then typed on, but I did not put space between C and on. That's the mistake that was there. So I'll try it again. Perfect. It's there. So it's now working fine. So let's get an individual movie star. Again, we'll come here, create stored procedure, SP, get movie star details. For the movie star details, it's pretty straightforward. I'll just remove all this and all this. And I'll simply just say, I'll need the star ID, which is integer. So I'll simply say here, select all fields from movie stars where the star ID is equals to the star ID I have just provided, like that. Semicolon at the end of it, execute it. Perfect. Then lastly, we delete. So create stored procedure, sp delete movie star. Then I'll have here star ID. When I'm deleting, I need the star ID, which is integer. I also need the user who deleted it, which is integer. And here again, we said we do soft delete, we don't do hard delete. So when you're deleting, we're simply going to say update movie stars. Then we simply say set deleted is equals to 1, date deleted is equals to current date and time, which is now, and of course deleted by is equals to the user ID that I've just provided the other side. Then I need to provide the criteria for an update where the star ID is similar to the star ID that I have provided. So that should allow me to do a soft delete. I'll execute it, I'll try it out, and it's perfect. So you can see as I continue to do that for those two tables, at least I have 10 stored procedures. So that's how I'm going to be building my application as I move along. So they're going to become very, very many as I move along. But of course, the do something very specific. The good thing is that we are decoupling our backend application from our database. So in future, if we need to change from Python to Node.js or from PHP to Android and so forth, nothing will change as far as our database is concerned. Everything is going to work right out of the box. The only thing that changes is how we connect to it, and that's basically it. Okay. Perfect. So let's test and see whether these operations are working before we move into something else. So again, I'll come to this query window over here. I can remove all this. Well, I can leave it for your reference, though I'm recording this as a video, so probably you will be able to review this later, but I can share it with you so that you are able to um, see how we test them out. So again, let's check if a movie star exists. So technically, click on, I'll pick the stored procedure itself, and I'll say the word here call, and I'll put the movie star. I'll put the star ID as 0, and maybe say the reference number is Hollywood 001. I'm assuming that's how they're given the numbers, something like that. Of course, I expect this one not to return anything because the table is empty at the moment. So let's create a new movie star, then we can come back and check. So save movie star over here. I'll pick this um, stored procedure. I'll come to my query here and I'll say uh, call this star ID. I'll put 0 because you want to create a new one. The first name, I'll use my favorite one, Toby Maguire. Favorite one. Toby is his first name. Um, Single quotes. Maguire is his second name. Well, third name, probably I'll use blank because I don't know his third name. Gender, I'll say it's male. Date of birth, I'm not really sure, but I'll assume 1979. Now, this is the problem with MySQL. You can't use a date like that. You have to start with year, then month, then day. That's the problem with MySQL. Now, for the mugshot, I'll put a blank because this we are going to upload via PHP. Nationality is American, which is ID number 1, and the user who was added also is the number 1. So there are certain things that we're going to do on the application side. So for here, we're just going to test them with blank. So again, I think I had missed. Did I put the reference? Reference should have been. As you can see, I forgot to put the reference. So that becomes a problem. So I need to modify a reference should be the reference number. Yeah, I have reference number, but I never called it anywhere. So I need to, yeah, and that becomes a problem because if I try to execute that stored procedure, as you can see, it will give me an error. So you can see reference number is not defined. So those are genuine mistakes that people do make when you're writing code. So let me just go back to that stored procedure and modify it. Of course, I can't come here and modify it from here because it already exists. MySQL don't allow me. So what I need to do is just to come here and I'll simply say save movie star. Then I'll say alter. Then here I can now make the change. So after the star ID, let me provide the reference number. And this is variable character 50. I missed it for some strange reason. So reference number is there. Reference number has been used here. And reference number has also been used here. So you can see that's why it was complaining that's not able to see it. Execute that. It's able to save it. Come back to my query. Put the reference number as the second variable. So here I want to say it is this reference number that I used up here. And if everything is fine, it should save. Reference not in the field list. A non-reference number in the field list. Why is it complaining still about reference number? Oh, this is reference. This is not reference. Actually, that's spelled wrongly. Reference. Reference. Yeah. So this other one is also reference. Yeah. So again, it was a typo. Execute it again. Run it. Now you can see it's successful. So it's actually okay. So if I was to execute this one and I say get, you probably see that now Toby exists. Okay, and that's important because now if I wanted to add somebody else with ID 001, maybe say Jeremy Ford, it probably would add it. But of course, we know that we're going to use this one on our front end. We're going to use this one inside the PHP. Then the PHP will validate without adding. Here, directly, it will be able to add it. So let me say Jeremiah's rather, and I'll save that. And I'll maybe say only number three is Nicolas Cage. And I save that. I'm assuming the rest are okay. Then maybe say the other one is Christian Dance. And this is female. Let me assume she was born in 1984, probably on June the 10th. It's guesswork. I'm not being accurate. Yeah, so I've added three movie stars at least. So we know that check works. I can check number two, and it should give me Jeremy Irons, as you can see. And if I check number three, it should give me Kirsten Dunst. Okay. Oh, Nicolas Cage also given number three. So okay, well I forgot to update that, but that's fine. Probably we needed to put that as a unique key so that the database will be able to protect it itself if you try to replicate. But nonetheless, that works out. So let's check a list of movie stars. So if I say get movie stars over here, I'll come here and I'll say call that. So highlight this and just execute it up here. It tells me column first name is ambiguous, which is true. So if I come to get movie stars here, this first name, I get movie stars. That's delete, sorry. Get movie stars. Get movie stars. Where is it? Oh, it's here. Get movie stars. Now, this first name appears both in the list of the movie stars and in the users list. So I need to be very careful which first name am I talking about. I'm talking about user dot first name, user dot middle name, and user dot last name. That's why the aliases are important. So I'm talking about first name, middle name, and last name from the users table, not from the movie stars table. So I need to tell it if the field is common, is common amongst multiple tables. So tell it from which table to extract that data from. So that's my mistake. Again, it's good because these are genuine issues that you will run into when you are executing your own code. So I'll just close these two. Then I'll come back here and try it out. So now I'm able to see I have these four movies. So Toby was written wrongly, Toby one. So I'll try and edit number one. And this is Hollywood number one. And he's Toby Maguire. Toby without a one. And it's Maguire. This was Mel. I'm just trying to update his details so that they reflect what's there. And this was 1979, January 1st. So 1979, 1st of January. The rest are okay. So when I save that, because I'm providing the ID, then it will just go and update where the ID is, the one that I provided. So execute that, it executes. If I get them all over again, we can see that it has now actually updated Toby Maguire nicely. Actually, M is small, it should be capital M. We'll handle that with PHP mostly. For database, you're just concerned about it being able to work properly. So we can get movie stars. Then let's get the movie star details. So to get the movie star details, I'll come to get movie star details over here. I'll highlight this and I'll call it down here. And I'll call it now. The star ID, it depends which stars detail do I want. Let me say I want star number four. So if I put number four, it should give me all the details of Kirsten Dunst. Now you can see here the country is have I executed this? No, this is okay. The country, I wanted to check that the country name, it shows United States of America, but if I click on this, you'll see that the country ID is actually one. So you see the nationality is one, but if I execute this other one, it gives me the name of the country. So that's the power of the union, the joins that you're talking about. The joins allows me to combine multiple tables. Then I can be able to get data that I need from multiple spaces without any issue. So get movie details allows me to do that. So let me assume I want to delete um, Jeremy Irons. So to delete Jeremy Irons, I'll come pick this third procedure and I'll just call it down here. So I want to delete Ions. Ions is ID number two, and the user who's deleting is ID number one. Well, even two will work, but let me use ID number one. So I execute that. It has executed successfully. So if I come back to get details of the movie, you can see now I'm not able to see Jeremy Irons because they have been or he has been deleted. So that's the CRUD operation or the crude operation, the way you however you like to call it, as far as movie stars are concerned. So I've done two tables. I have done I have done movie categories and I've done movie stars. Is there any question up to that point? Any question up to that point? All right, perfect. So I think I'll stop this first recording at this point. I will share it with you. Then maybe I want you to try out the production companies and actually just try production companies and users, then see how it works out for you. Then we can carry on with the next phase, which is now going into PHP and seeing how we can be able to put it together. Okay? Tuko sawa?
Yes, yes.
So I'll just